Hello and welcome to India Hangout Concepts. Today we are asking, why are trade unions striking and why so after such a long gap, and what really are they trying to achieve with this strike? Now, this is not a debate in the traditional sense, it's more an attempt to try and get to the bottom of some of these questions in so as to help you understand the context and the background. I'm going to be joined by BL Sachdev, General Secretary of the All India Trade Union Congress, by Dr. Fawad Halim, spokesperson and leader CPIM, as well as Shaina NC, leader at the BJP, in a little while shortly. So the first question that we're going to be asking today is, why are trade unions striking now? Which is at this point of time specifically. So let me go to Fawad and ask him that question. Fawad, so give us a context and walk us through the background. So why the strike now, and seemingly a very large strike after a long time?
You see, the last elections that were held, they were held on issues that were very, very close to the working class. And the issues that affect the working class were raised in the run-up to that particular election. To understand correctly, the last election was fought on the issue of corruption. The last election was fought on the issue of redistribution of wealth, bringing back the black money, and it was also fought on the issue of the Congress party actually abdicating all rights of the workers in favor of the employers. Now, having said that, after the election, we see that actually the place where the Congress had left off, the Bharatiya Janata Party made the from that very spot. And they continued with the same anti-union policy, anti-worker policy, and hence given the time to integrate the opportunities given by the people of India in the present government to actually establish the central for what we call giving to their what we call desires. That since there has been no delivery, the NDA has to hold a very strong terms on behalf of the workers.
Right. Fawad, let me come back in a moment. I'm not getting your voice very clearly, but let me put that question while we sort that out to Mr. Sachdev at the AITUC. Mr. Sachdev, walk us through the background. I mean, obviously we've been seeing strikes in the past as well, but what's the trigger and the context for this specific one?
All the 12 central trade unions have been pressing for demands relating to workers with respect to labor law enforcement and reasonable deal to the contract workers, mean abolition of contract system of labor, and pending abolition, at least these contract workers should be paid the wage and other service conditions at par with the regular workers, provided contract workers do the same and similar type of job. And we have been pressing for a minimum wage of 15,000 per month, mean that's at least it should be 15,000 per month, and then against this social security for all, and no disinvestment of public sector undertakings and FDI in strategic sectors like railway and defense. And of course, these demands have earlier been raised with the UPA government also, but when this new government has come, the unfortunate part is this government has taken up the issue of labor law amendments in such a high speed that they want to, for making the Make in India program, just to invite investment and all, naturally they want to further dilute the rights of the workers with respect to formation of a union, with respect to wages, with respect to being choosing the leader of their choice, and putting several restrictions. That is what has prompted the central trade unions to go in for. We waited for full 1 year with this NDA government, and actually we decided on 26 May to call for a protest strike on 2nd September. In between the group of ministers, we had 3 meetings, but no satisfactory response came. No concrete or tangible solution was given by the government on any of the demands.
Right.
So we were compelled to go on for a strike. Unfortunately, one of the constituent BMS opted out, but nevertheless, at ground level, their unions have cooperated in the strike action that was.
So, Mr. Sachdev, what's the key demand here? I mean, I know there are 3 or 4 points, and these points, as you pointed out, have been accumulated over time, and this has been debated internally and so on. But if I were to ask you to list one major trigger to this strike, what would it be?
Major demand of the workmen on which we went on protest is these labor law amendments, minimum wage of 15,000, and the contract labor. These are the 3 major issues. Of course, other demands are there. These 3 issues, when the government attitude is negative, and we were compelled to go on strike. On 7, 8 issues, they are saying we are considering, we will favorably do it. There is no concrete assurance, or there is no concrete solution in all this discussion, 3 days discussion that we had with a group of ministers. And unfortunately, because the large-scale participation by workers has shown that at ground level, workers who create wealth for the country, for the society, they are being ignored.
So let me ask the next question, which in some ways is linked to what you said, Mr. Sachdev. Whose interests are trade unions representing today? And this is, like I said, the idea is to get to the answer or the context of the answer. Ford, let me come to you. If I hope you can hear me clearly now. Whose interests do trade unions really represent today?
Could you come again once again?
Yeah, no, the question for this, whose interests are trade unions representing today?
Well, trade unions are definitely representing, by the very definition, the interests of the workers. And the workers across India, whether they come from the organized or the unorganized sector, they account for almost 15 million of our citizens. And this strike is called by the same trade unions together along with different federations. And we are reflecting the rights and aspirations of the workers in India. And fortunately, the agricultural sector, which doesn't come directly under the workers, they too have cooperated with this month yesterday. And you can see they had an impact both in the urban as well as in the rural sector. So it is a landmark, I think, so far, representing the aspirations and desires of the workers based on their understanding of what their rights should be.
Right. Okay. Mr. Sachdev, can I pose the same question to you? I mean, is this the larger mass of all workers? Is it organized workers, unorganized workers, organized workers in public sector or government, or organized workers in public and private? I know both public and private workers have gone on strike this time, but whose interests does a strike like this fundamentally represent?
No, because this strike has been participated by workers both from public sector as well as from private sector, organized sector as well as from unorganized sector, because this minimum wage issue directly concerns the unorganized sector. There is a lack of these scheme workers, like Anganwadi, ASHA workers and all. They are being termed as volunteers. Actually, they are doing what the government should be doing. They should be considered as a worker so that they get minimum wage and other benefits. The government has not been, even UPA government didn't care much, but NDA government is not sympathetic towards the worker. We feel, the trade union feel, the way they are going ahead with the privatization, with labor law changes and all, they are doing favor to the corporates. To make hire and fire easier for these employers. We have that view, and that's why, in order to express our protest, we went on strike.
When you say privatization, Mr. Sachdev, is there any specific privatization that you're referring to? Because there haven't been any for a while, isn't it?
No, there has been. First is the privatization. Disinvestment is also a part of privatization, because when in oil sector, Indian Oil and other sectors and all, they are selling government shares, And even in today's newspaper, you read that this exploration of gas and all, they have totally opened it because oil and gas used to be under the control of the government. Now, even yesterday, the cabinet has taken the decision that is open.
So
Kind of
right. Okay. Let me come to Ford on this. Ford, conceptual question again. Is the opposition to potential privatization or disinvestment, which is only sale of some shares in a government-owned entity, the same as, let's say, fighting for protection of labor rights?
There are two parts to the question that you put. Specifically, the charter of demands for this Hartal yesterday was clearly stoppage of foreign direct investment in railways, insurance, and defense. That was very clear. In addition to that, we had demanded the withdrawal of the Land Acquisition Amendment Bill and Ordinance, which this government has done a flip-flop on, and finally they have withdrawn. So that one of our demands has already met with success. The second is the yesterday's demand was definitely conceptually against privatization and investment in the public sector, but specifically, if you ask me, the limited to railways, insurance, and defense with regard to yesterday's fund. And the second part of the question is regarding labor laws. Labor laws is approached by the 12-point Charter of Demand yesterday in a constructive fashion. The first thing which we are saying regarding labor is that the minimum wage for anybody in India should be 15,000 rupees. Along with that, anybody who has worked his life should get a minimum pension of 3,000 rupees per month. So that's the base.
Mr. Sachdev, what do strikes really achieve?
Of course, by going on the strike by millions of workers, at least we have registered our protest again that we are not happy with the policies of the government, which is not aimed at creating employment, which is the government is bent upon diluting whatever right we have, and is not also trying to fix up the minimum wage, what was being the norms for which were decided way back in 1957 and subsequently which were ratified by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court had further said that another 25% extra should be given to them. And for scheme workers, we have been trying for years together. The government is not giving them the recognition or status of a worker. So all these issues put together, and with that the contract system of labor and their varying service condition when the workers are doing same and similar type of the job, this kind of discrimination has compelled us to do so. And we feel that the government will take a lesson, and if they don't again restart discussions and resolve the problems, the struggle may be intensified. We'll have more forms of struggle. Maybe at a later stage we will go for indefinite strike, but we'll decide it collectively.
Okay, Shaina, I don't know if you've come back to us. We are trying to ask 4 questions. We are on the third one now, which is really, do strikes achieve anything? Now, this is not a debate. The idea is to provide context into an event that happened recently. So, from your point of view, perhaps a little more entrepreneurial, apart from being a member of a political party, what do strikes really achieve?
What do strikes achieve?
Yes.
I think for the people participating in this strikes, that's the only achievement where they feel that they've agitated in a democratic way, they have expressed their point of view, etc. But if you take, for example, the taxi strike we had in Mumbai, holding a city to ransom only based on certain ideals, I don't think is the way forward. If one really has an issue, one needs to discuss, deliberate, debate, and seek appointments with the authorities where you sit across this table and you arrive at some kind of solutions. If you take OROP, for example, which is a much larger scale, where people have been agitating and not striking, but they have been having their own demonstrations vis-a-vis the government. I think the sad part is that the government has announced that, yes, we will be committed to ensuring that, we are going to implement at the earliest. So that is a different type of agitation, which I don't think we can term as a strike, so to speak. I think all in all, in a democracy, everyone is entitled to strike, to agitate, to debate,
Right.
discuss. Progressive way would be to speak to authorities and come up with via medias and solutions, and not be part of problems, but rather be part of the solution.
Right. So, Shaina, two specific points or two lateral points. I mean, so one is that there has been a hit to the economy because of this particular one on September 2nd. 25,000 crore is the figure estimated by one industry body. Let's put that aside for a moment. More importantly, if you look at some of the demands, and I was just asking the other two panelists, they said the key demand is really contract labor reforms, or the proposed contractor labor reforms, which in any case states like Rajasthan have implemented. Now, do you see this demand being legitimate in a manner? Does it work in the interests of everyone, as such agitations are supposed to do?
I think the permutation combination in every state differs. So to suggest that what the criteria for Rajasthan should be applicable for Maharashtra is slightly difficult and far-fetched to say. Yes, of course, there are various organizations that have various views on this. But if you see what our corporate law and our industries minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said vis-a-vis this issue, you obviously know that the BJP is talking about development and empowerment of the individual, rather than it being a yesteryear phenomena of only striking, agitation, and unions, so to speak.
Right. Okay. So let's come to the last question. So the question really is, are trade unions, again, this is a conceptual question, are trade unions being unfair to citizens? Now, this question also has to be seen in the context of the time we are in, which is obviously in a situation where this is not a state-controlled economy or a completely state-controlled economy, and to some extent, an agitation or a strike to achieve the objectives for one set of people could potentially disrupt the lives of those who are not part of it, or those who may choose not to participate. So it's a slightly wide question. Let me begin with you, Mr. Sachdev.
Oh.
Mr. Sachdev, the question was for you. So the question was, are trade unions being unfair to citizens, particularly at this particular context where there are people whose lives are disrupted, there are people who may not want to participate, or people who may have a different view about how to resolve issues like this?
We are really sorry, and we apologize also if our action has caused some inconvenience to the common people. But when the government is not listening to the legitimate issues of the workers, naturally, as an expression of our fundamental right to agitate in a democratic setup, we have gone, and we don't go so frequently. We had given sufficient time to the government, more than 3 months time to the government to come out with some solution to some of the issues, but the government has not given us solution for even a single point that we have raised. We are sorry that strikes and agitation and all do cause inconvenience, but when we are espousing the cause of the workers, about 40 to 45% of the population comprises of working people. It's the largest section of the population and more useful section of the population for which this present government is not caring. So it's unfortunate because any agitation may cause little inconvenience, but what to do when the government doesn't listen to you? You have to come out on the streets.
Okay, Ford, can I come to you quickly now? Again, a conceptual question. Are trade unions being unfair to citizens for all the reasons that I just outlined, which is that you're representing really a sliver of workers who are not all workers. Not all workers perhaps want to agitate. Not all workers perhaps believe that in the future this is going to be the sort of labor industry construct as we have perhaps saw in the past.
Well, at the very outset, let me tell you that I do not see this question coming as from a point of view where it's labor versus the citizens. The labor constitute the citizenry of the country, and they are part and parcel of the citizens of the country, and their rights definitely constitute the broader platform of the issues that involve citizens. How the public distribution system, the issues that the trade union was faced is absolutely congruent with what other people are actually demanding, and that is why you've got this response. The response speaks for itself. Definitely, there are inconveniences when a bunch is called, and those inconveniences can be looked at from the point of view of the workers who are giving their 1 day's wage out. Those people who are working in the organized sector will have their 1 day's salary cut from their what we call income. And on the other hand, you've got big businesses who will have to give up 1 day of profit. Now the question is the workers will sacrifice their 1 day's salary, the 1 day's wage, the poorest of the poor. They are foregoing their what we call income. They actually on.
Right. Right, Ford, I think your voice is sort of growing weaker, but I'm sure the cause isn't. So let me cut you off there. And last point to Shaina. Shaina, again, a conceptual question. You know, are trade unions being unfair to citizens, or do trade unions, thanks to the way they approach some of these issues, sort of become unfair to citizens and then obviously inconvenience them and actually disrupt their lives?
See, if trade unions are being paid less than the minimum wage, clearly they have a right to agitate and strike. But if they are not being paid less than the minimum wage, and if they feel that this is their time to hold the city to ransom, I think it's unfair. You have a lot of people in this country that are still talking about employment. And to think that so many people who have been given employment or who are in a particular profession or a labor union have been given way above their minimum wages, have been provided provident fund, have been provided all kinds of grants for health, education, etc. If they agitate and strike over and above, especially if there are, like for example, a bus union or a taxi union, I think it's unfortunate, because the way forward is through discussing with the government rather than holding the government and public to ransom. I think that trade unions and labor unions are a thing of the past. We have also realized that unions have worked sometimes not always to the advantage of their own people who subscribe to their ideology. So I think that we need to understand in the 21st century things are moving, and things are moving in a positive direction. If they want to discuss with the government is only open to discuss, but please don't hold the city to ransom.
Right. Okay. Like I said, this is a great debating point, but this particular session is not about a debate. It's try to understand and contextualize some views on what some of you think about strikes in today's day and age. Should they be held at all? Who do they really affect? Does one person's strike becomes another person's agony, and how? So that was really the objective, to try and showcase some of these things. We've run out of time. Thanks so much for watching India Hangout Concepts. We'll be back soon.